Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this leadership episode of 30 Minutes to President's Club. My name is Armand Froke, and I'm back with my co-host, Mark Kosklo. Mark, it has been a minute since we've had you on the show, and I'm stoked to have you back because we are talking with Adam Carroll. If you don't know Adam Carroll, you might know one of his business partners, who is a 4 to 5 time Hall of Fame guest on 30 MPC, Ian Koniak, who was the number one all-time producer at Salesforce. They worked together. And Adam is a multiple-time VP of sales. He was VP of enterprise sales over at FullStory. He was head of enterprise sales and strategic sales at Recurly, then VP of sales at FullStory, and now he is the founder over at Carroll Sales Consulting. And this is an episode all about how to tactically coach your reps every single week. Mark, why should people listen?
Yeah, I think that coaching is one of two things: intentional or ineffective. And I think what Adam does a really good job of is giving us tactical, easy ways to make it intentional, and intentionality always brings success.
Alrighty, Adam, welcome to the show. We start every show with your top 3 actionable leadership takeaways. Let's get your 3.
All right, number 1, so coaching doesn't happen without a plan. Every frontline sales manager I know at the moment is being stretched in all different directions. There's CRM updates, forecast updates, client fire drills, internal meetings, all these kind of things. And what gets deprioritized is high quality, consistent coaching. To overcome that and to make sure you are delivering coaching, you need to have a plan. I have a framework for a coaching plan. The acronym is IDEA. I is for identify coaching themes. So you might find that someone on your team needs a lot of work around discovery and asking higher quality, more in-depth pain questions. The D is for delivering the coaching, and that's actually walking through with the rep and providing a specific example. Here's where you asked the prospect about the pain, but there was an opportunity to go deeper with that. And here's some other questions that you could have asked to better quantify what that pain and the impact was. The E is for ensuring action. So that's making sure that you're not just giving the coaching, you're setting actions for that rep. So for discovery, for an example, it could be giving them a list of sample questions, working through it with them, and making sure that either in a role play or on their next discovery call, they're actively putting those into place. And then the A is assessing and measuring. Did they actually put those into place? How did they go? What metrics and KPIs did it impact?
What's number 2?
Number 2 is immediacy equals impact. So hopefully managers out there know the importance that when they give a piece of coaching or feedback, the sooner it can be put into practice in the wild, the better. What a lot of managers I'm finding are underestimating is the window they have for that adoption. So in my experience, it's got to happen within 24 hours. So if you're not giving that coaching and then giving an opportunity or setting up an opportunity for the AE to put it into place within 24 hours, it's not likely to stick. It's not likely to drive behavior change. What that means is, let's use the discovery example again. If you've given some coaching to one of your reps on discovery and it's a Thursday afternoon and the next morning they've got a discovery call with the prospect, fantastic. Put 10 minutes in their calendar and review that call with them straight afterwards. However, it might be that their next discovery call with the prospect isn't till Tuesday, after the weekend, 5 days away. So what you want to do in that case is get them adopting it sooner. And that might be a role play with yourself. It could be that they record a role play with one of their teammates. It might be that they use one of the new AI tools out there to role play with it doesn't matter. They need to put it into place, and then you need to make sure that that's happening. And that's what's really going to drive impact and drive behavior change.
All right, to bring it home, what's number 3?
Number 3 is measure adoption and not just measure the end outcome. Any coaching should be driving towards an end business outcome. That's going to be increasing overall pipeline. It's going to be influencing win rates and revenue booked. But for a lot of companies, the lag time is months. So you don't want to give coaching and then wait 3 months to see did that coaching actually work. You want to make sure it's getting adopted, and you want to make sure it's getting adopted in the right way. So we'll keep using this discovery example, but if you provide some coaching on discovery, if you set some actions, some of those micro KPIs that you might set is Can you increase the number of pain questions you're asking on average on a discovery call from 4 to 8, for example? What percentage of deals have quantified pain? At the moment, it's 50%. We need that number to be 80%. And then looking more at kind of deal progression, did the stage 2 to stage 3 conversion rate increase by X%? If you have those things, you're going to know that you're going to be comfortable and confident that the coaching is being adopted.
All right, Adam, I want to dig into this framework a little bit. The first thing that you talked about was, hey, if you have a plan, you're more likely to do it. But I don't know if having a plan creates more time for you. Managers still have the forecast call, the CRM updates. Like, how do you coach a sales leader, a sales manager, an org to find the space to run the plan? Because that's the real hairy part of it.
Too many managers try and squeeze coaching in when they do have time. And then coaching happens in an ad hoc way when they have time, when they've got that 20 minutes to listen to a call and hop on a call with one of their reps, or it just gets kicked down the road. It may not necessarily create more time for you, but what it will do is create some accountability, most importantly for yourself to ensure that it happens. But also, if you have a documented plan with every rep, and maybe you're sharing that with your sales leader as well, there's accountability for everyone. So it is far more likely to happen.
Let's say that you're helping an org that has 3 managers and 25 reps. What are you saying to that manager? Hey, you need to set aside 4 hours a week for coaching? Are you saying, listen, Mondays and Fridays, we're going to have team meeting? Like, give me the way that you would structure it so that as a sales leader, I'm dictating to my managers what they're going to do, not just hoping that they're going to do it.
It's exactly that. It's setting aside based on the amount of reps they have, based on their sales motion, how many hours a week that manager needs to carve out for coaching. And that will include things like how many calls they're going to listen to and how much time they're going to spend on those calls. It's how frequently they're going to give that feedback to each rep. Is it every week? Is it every other week? And is that feedback going to happen in a standalone individual coaching session? Is it going to be part of a one-to-one? It's going to vary from company to company, but the critical thing is that there is a plan and that cadence is very clear to everyone and the expectations are very clear.
So when I was at CRO at Catalyst, we had what we called Skill Building Friday or something like that, I think it was. And on Fridays, we would have an hour-long meeting where we do a coaching session. Other than that, coaching was done a little bit ad hoc and like on request. How would you tell me to change what I'm doing to be more effective with coaching? Because I know that our reps were gaining skills, but I don't know if they were getting the individualized coaching that they always needed.
The first thing I would do is for every frontline manager at the start of the quarter, I would instruct them to go away and carve out a full couple of days and build their coaching plans. And what they're going to come back to me is a coaching plan for every AE, and they're going to have identified specific themes for each AE or development areas that they're going to work on, put the plan in place, and then to have a schedule. And what that schedule is going to look like, I want them to block out 2 hours every week at a minimum to be listening to their team's calls. And they're going to have a cadence where their team sends them a call every week, Friday, 12 p.m., whatever it is. And the manager is going to have 2 hours blocked out to review those calls. And then they're going to have every week 30 minutes set aside, either standalone or as part of that reps one-to-one, where they're going to go through the coaching themes that they've discussed, examples from the call that the AE is sent through, and they're going to set new actions for the next week. That is a minimum. If you're not doing that and you can't find that 4 or so hours a week, then you're not going to be a successful manager. You're not going to drive maximum performance from your team.
So I've got 2 hours of calls that I got to review. I got to make sure that my reps aren't just sending me 60-minute demo calls and they're like, look at it. When I go ask my reps to send me calls, how prescriptive are you being? What are you telling them to send you?
Super prescriptive, because the most frustrating thing and why I feel a lot of managers don't utilize these call recording tools as effectively as they can is that they just jump in when they have time and find whatever call they can or whatever random call their rep has sent them. They get 20 minutes in and they're like, this isn't a good call to be giving feedback on. they get frustrated. It needs to be at a certain time every week. There's a deliverable, there's a reminder. And for each AE, it should be based on what the coaching theme is. If John is great at discovery, not good at setting the next step at the end of the discovery call, he's going to send you an example of how he does that. Maybe it's a good call, maybe it's a bad call, but you're going to give him feedback on that. If Sally is having trouble with her pricing and proposals, she's going to send you an interesting pricing and proposal call. And you need to also be prescriptive of what you're looking for. You don't always want the slam dunk where the call went really smoothly. You want the call where Sally got some interesting feedback on pricing. Sally was kind of stumped by something that the prospect said. So if you set really clear expectations and set an action every week for your team, you're going to be really efficient with that 2 hours when you're reviewing calls.
Yeah, it's really important that you, number one, set a theme. What type of call do you want? Is it a negotiation call? Is it a demo call? Is it an executive presentation? That's number one. The other two things that I love to have sellers send me is number two, send me a timestamp. So a timestamp of where you feel like the critical 1, 2, or 3 moments were within that call, where things went really well or really poorly. And then 3, give me your point of view. And this is how you can actually test for the adoption and conscious competence. If you told a rep, hey, you need to go deeper on pain questions or you need to go deeper on impact questions, they know that's the theme. They should be able to identify in this discovery call at minute, I could have asked an impact question, but I didn't, watching my own tape back. And then your job as a manager becomes 10 times easier because all you need to do is go to minute 10 and say, you got your self-diagnosis perfectly correct. Go work on that thing.
The timestamp's really important because in 2 hours, you're not going to be able to listen to all of every single call. So if you're getting a timestamp, you can maybe listen to you want to listen to how the call was set up, but you can listen to it on higher speed. Then you can really drill in on what's that 5 kind of minute chunk of the call where they've timestamped and they've already kind of self-diagnosed and asking for feedback. And then you can speed up the rest of the call. And then you're really going to be focused on what you're trying to develop with them, getting their self-diagnosis and self-coaching as well.
So we've started to take a theme. The way that you figure out themes is you require your reps to send you a call every single week with a timestamp on the thing that you're coaching them on. And that helps you identify and track themes. Good on that, right? Second is deliver, like you're delivering the coaching. Help us understand that happens on a cadence of, you said about a half hour every single week with every single rep. Is there anything else that someone needs to know about delivering the coaching to finish out that D concept?
No, except that you're going to identify the theme and it might be you work on that theme for a month and you're going to deliver at the beginning of that month the specific feedback. Hey, I don't think you're asking enough discovery questions, or you're asking great questions to identify the pain, but then you're not pushing on the wound. Here's a couple of examples when you've done that and there was an opportunity to go deeper. Here's some metrics on how many questions you're asking. And here's some really good examples so you know what excellent looks like of how the top 3 reps in the company do that exact thing. And that's how the coaching is delivered.
And then do you stay on a theme until somebody fixes it?
Yep.
Or after a month, you're just like, listen, they're not going to get any better. And at that point, are you thinking, hey, maybe this isn't a good fit? What happens if they're not getting better?
The theme could be 2 weeks and it's something simple. Someone not leaving the call without scheduling the next step. That can be done pretty easily. So they might get through that in 2 weeks and then it's on to the next theme. I've worked with reps and if they're not getting it after a month, you need to figure out, am I doing something wrong with the coaching? Do we need to try a different approach with the coaching? Or is this rep just not getting it? And if they're not getting it and it's a really critical thing like multithreading or pipe generation or discovery, cold calling, then I need to have a hard think about, is that rep going to make it in the long run? What metrics or KPIs are indicating that they will be successful? Because there's a big red flag with something that I've spent a lot of time on them on that's mission critical that they're not getting.
So the E in idea is ensure they do it. All right, so I'm a rep. I have 6 discovery calls this week. I'm working on my discovery call questions. I send you 1 call that week. The 1 where I actually tried it, the other 5 of it didn't even do anything with it at all. That doesn't sound like how are you ensuring that they do it at scale when you have 8 reps as a manager?
Yeah, so it might be that that person's not going to send me just one 30-minute discovery call, they're going to send me 3 snippets from 3 different calls of them doing that thing. And you've got to be really clear on what the action is. It's doing that thing, but it might be doing that thing. But before you even have those calls with the clients, we're going to do a role play, or you're going to do a role play with one of your teammates and record it and send it to me, and then we're going to review it. The action's not always what's happening on the prospect call. It's what's leading up to that. It could be even something as simple as, here's our discovery cheat sheet. Here's 15 questions that are sample questions. I want you to come back to me tomorrow and tell me what are the 3 that you're going to implement on your next call. So it's a mix of assignments, role plays, doing stuff on a call with a prospect, and it'll change from kind of theme to theme and rep to rep.
Adam, I would love to dig in here and give the audience some ideas or inspiration for ways that you can coach a rep other than saying, go role play discovery, because that was really interesting. I never thought about going through a list of the 15 discovery questions and being like, oh, pick your 3 questions and the one that you're going to try on your next call, for example. So maybe you could share from what you've seen coaching teams yourself, what are 3 common problems you'll see reps have?
Yep.
And then what are 3 potential prescribed practice plans you would give them?
Yep. We'll talk about discovery. We'll talk about multi-threading, and then we will talk about using give to get to progress a deal. With discovery, there's a lot of different things you can do. We've talked about role play. I think that's fairly straightforward. We've talked about reps sharing examples of their calls for you to give feedback on. But another thing I like to do is, Sally needs to get better at discovery and asking impact questions. I want Sally to go and listen to 1 call from Greg, 1 call from Kate, and 1 call from Bob, and come back and not just say, hey, I like this call, or I didn't like this call, but give me very specific feedback. Complete a scorecard. What questions did you like? What questions didn't get asked that you would have asked? So it's forcing them to think about their own discovery and what they would do, so that when they actually get on a discovery call, those seeds are in their head. Something like multi-threading might be a little bit different, and I like to give assignments. An assignment might be, you've got this deal that's multi-department, multi-stakeholder, starting to get some traction. What I want you to do is map out the buying group. Map out not just who the key stakeholders you've talked to, but try and find me 5 people that we haven't talked to that are likely to be involved in influencing this deal. And then let's go back and validate this with your champion on who the key stakeholders are, what their level of sentiment is at neutral, advocate, detractor, and who's got the most power. So you're giving them an assignment, and part of that they're going to do on their own, and you're going to help them with it. And part of it, they're going to hop on a call with their prospect and build that out. And that's how they're going to learn to map stakeholders and figure out how to multi-thread. And the third one was give to get. Again, I'm going to ask them to map out on this deal, what are 3 or 4 things you're going to get asked for at different stages of the deal. Early on, it might be MSA. It might be send through a demo recording, like really lightweight stuff. It might be pricing. And as the deal goes on, it might be case study. A prospect wants to talk to a reference customer. And I want you to map out in advance what you're going to ask for in return for all of these things. And if it's a lightweight request from the prospect, what you're going to map out is going to be lightweight in return, but it's going to be something that's going to be helpful to you. So as that deal progresses, they get asked, send me a demo recording or fill out this questionnaire. They're going to be great. I can do that, but you're going to ask something in return. So you're already getting them to think the way you want them to think and approach the deal that you want them to approach it the right way.
It sounds to me like if I was to TLDR this little part here, what I'm hearing is you really get reps to think about, how am I going to apply this coaching before I get to the call? And then if you're having them document that, then you have them send you examples, all right, of your next 3 or 4 calls where you did this. Show me exactly how you did it. And that seems like a real closed loop system, which I think is really effective. Give you the coaching, you process what you're going to do with it, document that what you were going to do with it. Now show me that you actually did it, and then I'm going to give you feedback, and then that loop is going to continue until we feel that you're like good at this skill. I think that's it's an amazing process.
Yeah, that's a really good way to summarize it. I do want them to think about it and kind of visualize it before it's actually happening, because then the expectation is clear. There's no excuses. if it doesn't happen, and then you can come back and measure it and reinforce it.
One of the things you talked about was coaching right after it happened. Back in the day before there was no Zoom, there was no virtual meetings, you did everything face to face. I would ride for 2 to 3 days with a rep in the field, in their car. We'd go to Panera Bread, we'd get coffee, we'd have dinner together. It was an awesome experience. That's all kind of gone away. But one of the beautiful parts of that process was after we would leave the meeting, all we would do driving to the next meeting was talk about what happened in the previous meeting. And that immediacy was fresh in their mind. My feedback was fresh. We could really analyze it way differently than 2 weeks later, or something like when my call review session came up. How do you get a rep, though, to not get kind of gun shy of, okay, every time I do a meeting, I'm going to get immediate feedback? Like, how do you set that up so that it's a very positive thing versus a negative?
Yeah, it's a cultural thing. So you want to foster that culture where people understand why they're going to get feedback, and you're selling to them the future state. You're not selling to them the negatives. You're telling Kate, hey, you're doing really well. You're here, but here's how you can get to here. And to do that, I like to give a lot of feedback. I want to listen to your calls. You tell me how you like to receive feedback as well. First of all, it's a cultural thing, and there needs to be that expectation. And you need to hire for those kind of people. Sometimes you don't have that luxury when you inherit a team, but one of the main things that will be a deal breaker for me when I'm hiring is this person going to be coachable? And I'll ask them questions. What was a recent example of feedback you were given that you implemented that improved your performance? You've set an expectation that you're running a team where there's a lot of feedback. I really like to foster a lot of peer-to-peer feedback as well. So having not just always me reviewing the calls, but have team members reviewing and commenting on each other's calls. And that can be super effective as well.
Adam, when you talk about coaching immediacy, you talked both about delivering the coaching immediately,
Yep.
but immediate implementation. And that's a concept we haven't talked about as much, which is, I think a lot of people are like, okay, rep gets off the call, you send them the Slack, you send them the email, you jump on the call, whatever it is, you give them feedback. But getting them to implement it tomorrow when their next sales call is 7 days down the road, that's unusual. And that's also hard, because I can imagine my rep saying, I want to implement this tomorrow, don't get me wrong, but I don't have time to do a 30-minute role play tomorrow. Can't I just wait for my next actual sales call? So if you're trying to encourage your reps to immediately get the practice reps in right after the coaching,
Yep.
How do you sell your reps on that, or suggest that they carve time in their day to get the coaching in, to actually apply the coaching?
So the immediate feedback is really important. So like Mark said, if you can ride shotgun, whether it's in person or whether it's Zoom now, and give immediate feedback, that's going to be the most impactful. Or if you can listen to a call recording that you weren't even on, but listen to it an hour after the call happened, that's really powerful. But you can also do some of the adoption then and there. You've set a call with them to review the meeting you were just on. Hey, I thought you could have done this differently. Let's play that back now. And how would you have done it differently? And have them just do a mini role play then and there. Then you at least know, okay, they understood the feedback. They know how to implement it. And then it might be that, okay, let's now map out when your next call is. Okay, it's 2 days. We can live with that. And I'm going to set 10 minutes with you after that call to review how you went there as well. That's probably the key way. But sometimes, again, there's more than 2 days before that next call. So I encourage role play, and it doesn't need to be 30 minutes. Like I said, it might be with me. I'm like, let's just hop on and I'm going to throw some cold call objections at you. And we're going to just go back and forth for 10 minutes. That's all I need from you. Or, hey, why don't you grab Sally? She's really good at handling this objection. Do some role plays with her tomorrow, and then I'll review that with you. Or I've just come across in the last few weeks these AI role play tools where you can go on. Some of them are free, and Sally can record herself doing a role play in her own time in the next day or so and send it to me for reviews. It doesn't always have to be the manager like coming down on you, watching over your back. But also it's how you deliver the feedback as well. I'm always focusing on the positive and the future state, and not like you did this wrong, you did this wrong. It's more about how can we get you doing this better and differently. And if you do it that way, in my experience, I haven't got a lot of pushback on the coaching.
So Adam, I think this goes back to what Mark was mentioning earlier, which is like having a coaching rhythm is really, really, really important, because You've got role plays, you're assigning them to do the question thing, you're having them map out org charts, you have themes by every single rep. I remember it was really helpful for me to have coaching rhythms with my team. For example, Tuesdays, we would tear down prospecting calls or emails. Wednesdays and Thursdays, it was usually pipe reviews and one-on-ones. And so that was more opportunity for either deal-related stuff or was more opportunity for role plays based on what that rep needed. And then Fridays, we would review tapes as a team. So I can imagine that any of these coaching opportunities could land into any one of those sessions.
Yep.
I'm curious for you, how are you keeping track of all of this stuff? Is it in a rolling one-on-one doc where you're having reps put together their own idea plan, what have you? How do you make sure that you actually remember all of the stuff that needs to happen with your reps?
So the first thing I do is I have a table or matrix of all the critical skills that someone on my team needs to be successful. And then I'll go through periodically and review that probably once a quarter at the start of the quarter and halfway through the quarter. And who's strong, medium, and weak. And it's something that I look at myself, I don't share with the team. And then I know, okay, I've got to work on these 3 things with Greg, but I'm going to start with thing number 1, then once we've done that, thing number 2, and thing number 3. So I'll get with Greg, and in our one-on-one document, we'll have a mini coaching plan. Like, this is the theme for the next month. It's going to be multithreading, for example. And in the one-on-one, we're going to talk about feedback and then actions. And then, of course, there's going to be Greg sending me several call snippets at the end of each week that I'm going to review and be able to give feedback on. So we've got that in there. I also recommend a standalone coaching session because sometimes it's just a one-on-one. You're going through so many other things that coaching gets squeezed at the end.
Well, Adam, it's been an amazing show. We have to move to the final question. And now we talked about a lot of good coaching habits, but it's time to talk about a bad one. So what is one bad coaching habit that every sales leader needs to break so that all teams could get a little bit better?
I'll use one just while we're talking about coaching tools, is what I call comment bombing. I've seen a lot of managers get overexcited with these call recording tools. And rather than listening to a call, taking notes, and then hopping on with the rep and going through the feedback, comment, like 2 minutes in, comment, I didn't like your upfront contract. 4 minutes in, comment. And then what the rep's got is 12 different comments on 12 different things, and they're receiving that out of context. So it's probably not going to land the right way. It's probably going to make them insecure or frustrate them or whatever. And there's not clarity. So it's unlikely they're going to improve in a lot of those things because there's just too many things to digest.
Amazing show. Everyone hang on for a 60-second recap coming up soon. Alrighty, folks, it's time for a 2x2 recap from this episode with Adam Carroll. Mark, what do you have for your 2?
Number 1 is make sure that you do immediate feedback. He took me right back to my ride-along days back in the day where I was like, I still remember you come out of the office, you're talking to somebody, you're riffing on what happened. And I think we've lost a lot of that in sales as we go from back-to-back meetings, Zoom to Zoom meetings. Our managers in one place, we're in another place. And so that immediate feedback, love it. And then the second thing is if you don't dictate the coaching schedule that you want your managers and reps to have, then you can assume it's not happening probably much at all or very impromptu ad hoc. And I think that he gave a very prescriptive way of organizing coaching with this much time, these many days, all this kind of stuff that really makes you super intentional.
Number 3, when you are being intentional about your coaching, block out 2 hours every single week to review calls. You need to tell your reps what theme the call should be in, for example, discovery or negotiation. You need to ask them to give you specific timestamps and then have them self-diagnose where they think things went right or wrong. And then lastly, number 4, when you are prescribing practice plans, role plays are not the only practice plan you can prescribe. So for example, if someone needs to work on having better impact questions, you might have your rep write down the 15 questions that your team can ask to get impact and then the 3 that they want to practice next. Or you could have them work on multithreading by have them map out the org chart for their next 3 opportunities and identify 5 people that they haven't already gotten in front of. Alrighty, folks, If you enjoyed this one, then you are probably thinking about your own coaching rhythms. And the legendary KD, Kevin Dorsey, did a write-up on our newsletter on how to run a great one-on-one in sales. And that is probably the most important coaching rhythm that you can have between yourself and a rep. So that is linked in the show notes. It was in our newsletter, and it's one of my personal favorite ones. It's actually what Nick uses to do one-on-ones with his new rep that he's hired at 30 MPC, Alex Murphy. And folks, we will catch you on the next episode.